pointed away from the Earth as though they're anticipating something coming. Now, that's a huge leap. I don't think it can be proved, but that appears to be what some of this is about.
Now, I'm choosing my words carefully here, but that sounds very prophetic of a number of civilizations on Earth. We won't get into that. What I want to talk about, this Project Bluebeam, what exactly is that, Michael?
Project Bluebeam is an alleged program to unite the governments of the world to a one-world order using the, quote, threat of a fake alien invasion, because before von Braun passed away, his personal secretary, Carol Rosin, he told her that there would be, quote, wars as a means to build weapons of mass destruction, why we would need to pay for these things, okay? And then since that didn't work, then we'd have terrorists. We now call them nations of concern. We would need to build weapons of mass destruction because of the terrorists. And if that doesn't work, there would be a, quote, asteroid threat. Now, we haven't hit that yet, so I think the timeline is still a little bit beyond us because we haven't had this, quote, asteroid threat. And then she said that he told her over and over and over again that von Braun said that the last card they would play would be the, quote, extraterrestrial invasion, and that would be the final card and reason that the defense contractors would cash in as a means to build these weapons of mass destruction to protect us from the aliens. That came directly from von Braun, not me. So that may be in the cards.
Key words, cash in. So it's all about the bucks, right?
It's a business decision. Yes, it's a business decision. It's all about arms. It's about cashing in. It's just amazing that they're willing to sacrifice cities for this, really. They really are.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. That is just terrifying. When are we going to grow up?
If this is really going to go down, I mean, it is... You know, we're pushing the envelope on validity here, but we just don't know for sure. But that is something that came directly from von Braun. Now, I want to talk about, if we can, Ben Rich. If there's any person in the world, there's two people, unfortunately they're no longer with us, but there's two people in the world that I think knew about what the big picture is. One is SS General Hans Kammler. He was the monster back in World War II. He built the concentration camps. He was the layout floor plan person for those things. However, he was also a brilliant engineer, and he was one of the project engineers on the Bell program. We won't go into the whole Bell program, but he knew about what was going on. And also, Ben Rich also knew exactly what was going on to a certain degree. He was the head of Lockheed Skunk Works between 1975 and 1991. He took over the reins from Kelly Johnson at the Skunk Works. And if we can, Justin, I'd like to go over some of his comments if we can.
Ben Rich is a very fascinating guy. I'm glad you brought him up because he's really integral to the scene here. Please go ahead, Michael.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I believe this gentleman deserves everything and every credit that we can give him. And before we begin, I want to state that these statements have been 100% authenticated. I'm going to give you the sources for this, the paperwork, documentation, so that you can check this out yourself. Now, I put these comments up on Wikipedia, his Wikipedia page, but they were torn down because people, they don't think that he made these statements, but they didn't dig deep enough. I'm going to say that right now. They did not dig deep enough. These are Ben's statements. So let's begin. The first one, quote, this is Ben Rich, Lockheed Skunk Works. We did the F-104, the C-130, the U-2, SR-71, F-117, and many other programs that I can't talk about. We are still working very hard. I just can't tell you what we are doing. This comes from 1993 Wright-Patterson Air Force Base slide presentation. Basically, the last presentation he gave before he died in 1995. Next one. The Air Force has just given us a contract to take ET back home. That's interesting. This is also at the same presentation. Okay, we already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black programs and would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity.
Wow.
This was confirmed by Tom L. Keller, who is an author, and also confirmed by Jan Harzan, who's the Orange County MUFON director. He was there personally when Ben made that statement. So we have that on file as well. We now have the technology to take E.T. back home. He made the same statement at the UCLA School of Engineering alumni speech back in 3/23/1993. Another one, we now know how to travel to the stars, same location. There is an error in the equations, and we have figured it out, and now know how to travel to the stars, and it won't take a lifetime to do it. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting indeed.
So what he's saying here is, and according to Tom Keller, who was there when he gave this speech, Tom said that Lockheed Skunk Works employs legions of theoretical mathematicians who are working on the equations for the breakthrough on space travel. And that's weird because you think about Lockheed Skunk Works. Oh, that's the F-117 and the U-2 spy plane and the SR-71, and we're talking about cutting metal. We're talking about machining. We're talking about building aircraft. No, it appears that Lockheed is bigger than that. They see the bigger picture. They're employing theoretical mathematicians. I mean, that's not something you would generally consider Lockheed Skunk Works doing, but according to Tom Keller, who was there, that's what Ben Rich was saying was going on at the Skunk Works.
That is absolutely...
I find very interesting.
Yeah, I've read these statements before, and it never ceases to blow me away and stand my hair on end. I got to tell you that, man.
Yeah, I mean, people are not getting the implications of what Ben is saying here. Let's go to the next one really quickly.
Yeah.
It is time to end all secrecy on this, as it no longer poses a national security threat, and make the technology available for use in the private sector. Exactly. Ben was proud of what he did on the F-117. He knew that there were black programs that could be trickled down into the commercial industry for the benefit of all mankind. That was Ben's goal.
Yeah.
And he was proud of what was done, and that technology was not being used. And it's a shame. The next one, quote, there are many in the intelligence community who would like to see this stay in the black and not see the light of day. That's UCLA alumni speech 3/23/93. Now, here's my favorite one. Before Ben Rich passed away in 95, this was January 5th, 1995, he received a telephone call from a good friend of mine by the name of Jim Goodall, who's another black aircraft researcher. And they were very good friends for years, Jim Goodall and Ben Rich. And Jim asked him if he would be agreeable to do a non-holds-barred interview. And Ben Rich agreed to do it, of all things. I mean, this is incredible. Here we have the head of Lockheed Skunk Works telling Jim Goodall that he has agreed to do a non-holds-barred interview. However, unfortunately, that interview never took place. But Jim Goodall was successful in getting a last phone call into Ben Rich before he died at the hospital. Here's what Ben Rich told Jim Goodall, January 5th, about 1 week before he passed away, January 5th, 1995. Quote, Jim, we have things out in the desert that are 50 years beyond what you could possibly comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort.
That is absolutely incredible. Do you know what the cause of death was for Ben Rich?
I believe it was cancer.
Yeah.
Died of cancer. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a shame because Ben was he was kind of a team player. He was a jokester. And a lot of people have claimed that these were tongue-in-cheek statements that Ben, was kind of saying on the side. No, that's not the case. You think about the context, what he was talking about.
Yeah.
He was nearing the end of his life. These were serious statements. These were not jokes. These were kind of like belated designer leaks. And if you think about the implications of what he's saying here, that we have technology and things in the desert, obviously I think he's talking about Area 51, the remote test site in Nevada, that are 50 years beyond what you could possibly even comprehend or dream of. That represents a level of technology that is unbelievable. We're talking light years beyond the B-2.
I believe it. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, we have the technology. They have made the quantum leap. And if we reference it back to the Detroit Free Press article, they have been spending billions of dollars on classified black budget programs with no congressional oversight, no public scrutiny, and they have made the breakthrough. It's very clear. It's very clear.
I had sorry, go ahead.
Another person that we need to reference as well is John Andrews. John Andrews was the Senior Project Design Engineer, Special Projects Group Testers Model Corporation in Rockford, Illinois. And the whole concept behind what John Andrews did, and they were good friends as well, is John's forte was to get a plastic model built of super secret Skunk Works aircraft before the Skunk Works rolled them out to the public. That was his big thing. He was aware of the U-2 before anyone was. I mean, really, he was probably the first civilian to know about the U-2. His F-19 model came out before the F-117 was declassified. Yes, it was different in configuration, but many of the features featured on that F-19 model did turn out to be things that were in the F-117. Now, here's something. They had a correspondence, John Andrews and Ben Rich, and basically Ben said that he was a believer in this phenomenon, and John was a little bit confused. He said, what do you mean? And here's something that came back from Ben Rich. It says, "Dear John, yes, I'm a believer in both categories. I feel anything is possible. Many of our man-made UFOs were unfunded opportunities. In both categories, there are a lot of kooks and charlatans. Be careful. Best regards, Ben Rich." So the huge question, and this is dated 7/21/1986 on official Lockheed Company letterhead nonetheless, what did Ben Rich mean when he said unfunded opportunities? What do you think, Justin? What do you think he meant by that?
Yeah, exactly. I've heard this before, and the idea is that these unfunded opportunities may have been extraterrestrial vehicle crashes that were retrieved or information
I think
given.
Very sharp. You're right on it. These could be hand-me-downs,
right.
Quote, hand-me-downs that we got from others. We can't prove that, or this meant that unfunded opportunities are just programs at the Skunk Works that didn't get the appropriate funding. Who knows? But if you think of what's been talked about here, it appears, and this is a huge leap, maybe Ben was talking about, craft that we obtained from others, and some of that technology was brought into some of our stealth programs. That gets into a little bit about what our good friend who was at the, quote, Dulce facility. This is getting off the track, but some of the things that were alleged to happen there. So let's get back here. Another one, this is from Stuart Brown, Popular Science, October 1994. Quote, "We have some new things. We are not stagnating. What we are doing is updating ourselves without advertising. There are some new programs, and there are certain things, some of them 20 or 30 years old, that are still breakthroughs and appropriate to keep quiet about. Other people don't have them yet." This is Popular Science, October 1994. So again, we have this same thing, 20 to 30 years that are still breakthroughs. We don't even know what it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, it surely is. Let's talk about some of these later-than aircraft, and because I know that some of the technology developed can reduce drag by about 60%. We all know the environmental implications of that.
Oh, absolutely. This is an interesting article. Aviation Week Space Technology, March 9th, 1992. Okay, because the F-117A was sort of released to the public on November the 10th, 1982, and then on November the 22nd, 1982, the B-2 was rolled out at Air Force Plant 42, Palmdale. Now, the question is, how much does each B-2 cost, right? There were 21 B-2s built. One crashed in Guam a year and a half ago. We're now down to 20 at the cost of $2.3 billion per aircraft. Mm-hmm. I think that is just amazing. $2.3 billion per aircraft. It's worth more than its own weight in gold, basically.
Yeah.
And I propose the argument, is there more we could have done with that $2.3 billion? Could we have fixed bridges? Could we have built more schools and helped the infrastructure of America rather than spend it on this bomber? It's just very interesting. It definitely appears that there is more to the B-2 stealth bomber than meets the eye. And again, I reference Aviation Week Space Technology, March 1992. And in the article, they interviewed a number of people who worked on the B-2 program. And this is Black World Engineer Scientists Encourage Using Highly Classified Technology